Over the last week, we have been discussing slope, which is the steepness or slantiness of a line measured as a ratio comparing the change in vertical position and the change in horizontal position. Sometimes this is called rise over run. We talk about a formula, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. But at its core, slope is just a change in the up and down movement on top of a change in the left and right movement. Let's look at this from a slightly different perspective than we did last week. Here we have a point at 2, 2. And we know that the line we want to create has a slope of 2/3. We need to think about this slope as a series of directions. Remember that our top number tells us to move up or down, with positive being up and negative being down. This positive 2 on top means we need to move up 2. On the bottom, we are told whether to move left or right, with a negative number meaning left and a positive number being right. Since this is a positive 3, we are going to move to the right 3 steps. Once we've done that, we can drop a new point. However, there's a way to move backwards using this same slope. Think back to 6th grade when we talked about the fact that fractions and division are the same thing. In division, a positive divided by a positive, such as here, positive 2 divided by positive 3, gives a positive answer. But there's another way to get a positive answer using division, and that is if you divide two negatives. In this case, negative 2 divided by negative 3. Let's look at how that applies as a series of instructions for our slope, again starting from the green point. The top number, negative 2, tells us that we need to move down 2 steps. The denominator is a negative 3, and since the bottom number tells us to move left or right, with negative implying left, this tells us that we need to move left by 3 steps. We can then draw another point. Notice that these 3 points all lie on a nice straight line. We can continue using these slopes either in the positive or negative form to draw other points that also fall on this line. If we start at the purple point and go down another 2 and left another 3, there's another point that falls on the line. Similarly, if we start at the orange and go up 2 and right 3, we have a 5th point that also lies on the straight line. What if our slope is negative? Remember, a negative slope runs downhill. We can also think back to 6th grade and to the idea of fractions and division being the same thing. When we are dividing, if it's a negative divided by a positive or a positive divided by a negative, the answer is going to end up being negative. So these two slopes, negative 3 over 4 and 3 over negative 4, are actually the same thing. They're both equivalent to negative 3/4. Both of them can be seen again as a series of directions telling us how to move from point to point along the line. The top number tells us whether we move up or down, with up being positive and down being negative. Since we have negative 3, that means we're going to move down 3 steps from our starting point. The denominator, our bottom number, tells us to move left and right, with right being positive and left being negative. Since this is a positive 4, we're going to move to the right 4 steps. And then we can drop our new point. Similarly, on the bottom, a positive 3 in our numerator means we're going to move up 3 spots. A negative number in the denominator tells us we need to move to the left. So we'll move to the left 4 spots and drop our new point. Once again, this turns into a straight line. Your homework that was assigned yesterday is in the homework folder of your OneNote. It's called 28th of September, Slope Worksheet number 2. It is due by the beginning of the next class. I will see you tomorrow morning.